Hi, friends. This is Tim Cato from DLLS MAVs. We are coming to you with some midweek content, some midweek analysis of the Mavericks and where this season is going to go. Two quick housekeeping notes. If you would like to like this video and subscribe to our channel below, that would really help us out. And also, we're recording this Wednesday before the Dallas Mavericks play the New York Knicks. So a few things might have changed by the time you actually listen to this, but we're staying big picture. It shouldn't be a big deal. Today, I've got Nick Angstadt from Locked On from Looked On Mavs, joining me, and we're gonna talk a little Mavericks. How did I do on that?
You did great. You did great. Midweek content though is just called content over where I'm from. So
okay, well let's not get lost in the semantics, and then let's instead just do a little bit of focusing on what the most impressive part of the Mavericks season has been at this midweek juncture.
Yeah, I think one of the most impressive things to me so far has been their wins against OKC and Denver. You know, the Kyrie-led wins without Luka. I mean, just if you said that before the season, hey, the Mavs will beat the Thunder and the Nuggets without Luka, you would have like fallen down. You know, thought like what would have to have happened? Who would have had to have gone off? And so those two wins specifically to me, the Denver win maybe more specifically than Thunder, because the Thunder just didn't have any centers and it's just such a big advantage for the Mavs. But like beating Jokic and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. and everybody was playing except for Aaron Gordon without Luka. That win in Denver was very impressive. You could tell that the Mavericks had circled that game on their schedule. They wanted to go back and beat Denver in Denver. It was just a great win all around.
Maybe they had highlighted it, you know, put some little stars next to it. But that's basically it's a backdoor way to say that Kyrie Irving, I think, has been the most impressive player, at least individually, out of everybody in Dallas. Like he is, you know, he's still at a career high. His true shooting dipped just a little bit, but it's still a career high 63%, which is just incredible because he's been shouldering the load now over the past few games by himself. So, you know, there is no signs of slowing of Kyrie being anything other than the magician that we know him to be. Quite frankly, you can make an argument that he's improving.
Yeah, I mean his shooting, his 3-point shooting has been, I think, one of the biggest catalysts for that so far this season. But I think just his ability, and sometimes we use it as a negative, like he lets the game come to him. But I think that's allowed the rest of this team to be empowered. And we've seen great games from PJ Washington against the Thunder. He led the team in scoring. Naji Marshall against the Nuggets, he led them in scoring. It wasn't Kyrie going out there and scoring like 40 in these two wins specifically and for them to win. However, the Atlanta game, that was maybe the most impressive moment because he came into the game, he was questionable coming into the game with the illness. Grimes missed the game for illness. Lively missed the game for illness, whatever this illness that's going around the Dallas Mavericks is. And then he doesn't look good in the first half. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh, well, the Mavs can't win this game. If Kyrie just is not going to be even close to his level, then they're not going to win this one without Luka. And then in that second half, and especially the fourth quarter, 16 points in that fourth quarter, hits a bunch of his shots. That was maybe the most impressive moment. And again, it was Kyrie leading the way. Other guys carried him to that moment. Naji had a good moment. Dinwiddie had a great stretch in that third quarter, but Kyrie in that fourth was awesome.
Kyrie took the second most shots of his Mavericks career. When he's sick, when he's not shooting well, when the team they were just barely leading going into the fourth quarter, but I get he's a professional and that he's going to show up all the time. And he talked about wanting to be there for his teammates, but there's still something so impressive about realizing that everything seemingly was going against him. Nothing was going his way in that game. And he still came out and kept taking shots, kept knowing that, you know, even though he's someone who lets the game come to him, he realized the way the game had to come to him was go get shots up. That's the only way for the team to win. It's a selflessness even, because it very easily could have not worked out. You know, we wouldn't be talking about his efficiency numbers and his career highs and all that stuff. Just what an impressive player and performance. I want to move on to the biggest surprise, and I've got one, but I want to start with you here.
Yeah, I think my biggest surprise is Luka not playing up to his level so far this season. We talked so much in the offseason, I know you guys did too, about is this Luka's MVP year? This is the one. This is the one that's set up for him. He's got the deepest team around him. The finals disappointment. Hopefully he comes back motivated. He's got all this rest under him from, you know, Slovenia not making the Olympics and all that. and he comes out and it just doesn't look like the same player. He doesn't look like the player that we expected. I thought he was going to come out of the gate hot. I was talking all summer about how this is Luka's opportunity to prove that he is the best player in the NBA. Some people think that, but not all people, and definitely not most people think he's the best player in the NBA. And then that first game against Denver, the one-on-one between him and Jokic, you could tell who's the best player in the NBA so far this season and has been for years now. And so Luka just not being at that level, and then he's still on Synergy ranked average on pick and roll ball handler attempts. Like that scoring off of those pick and roll, attempts where he's handling the ball is like his bread and butter. He is elite at that and has been since his rookie year. But for him to be average at that is really, it really shows just how he's not exactly who he is, even though he's putting up the same kind of counting stats that he normally does. But it just hasn't been to his level yet. And that has actually surprised me.
Yeah, teams have forced him into isolation just over and over again. Like go score against whichever player you want to get switched onto. And the fact that he hasn't been good enough in those situations has just led to this weird thing where the pick and rolls aren't as effective because teams are mostly just switching them or getting away with, laxer defense because, they don't fear putting their worst player onto Luka. There's no fear about that right now. And that's just such a unique phenomenon in the Luka era when we've, become so used to him just dominating in those situations. I'm going to give my biggest surprise to Naji Marshall, who is just, wow. Like what a player. There was a lot of talk and quite frankly, for me, I thought that Derrick Jones Jr. was, I don't really want to get into best or worst or better. Everything about a role player and how they fit is contextual to the team around them. And I still think Derrick Jones Jr. is a very, very, very good fit next to Luka Doncic. But Naji Marshall has absolutely proven that he fits this team as well. Just the confidence of knowing where shots are going to come. And quite frankly, it's shots that he's creating. We talk about knowing where the shot is going to come. We talk about that from three-point shooters, about always being ready for the pass that Luka's going to send them, no matter, when or how spectacular it might be. We talk about it, mostly in that spot up situation where, yeah, it'd be nice if you had somebody who could attack the double team and create a little bit in that way. Naji Marshall is creating offense for himself outside of those situations. And that is just, he's not going to shoot 60% on every floater he takes the rest of the season. He hasn't at any point in his career, but that shot is just awesome. It's awesome to watch. He has such a fun play style. To me, that's easily the biggest surprise.
Yeah, I came in the offseason and I was very staunch on the fact that I thought Naji was an upgrade over Derrick Jones Jr. So I'll take the win there and say that he has been
W's in the chat. W's in the chat. As Naji would say.
So far. The surprise for him for me has been it's more about his scoring than his distributing. I thought he would come in and be like a good passer and playmaker, and that hasn't necessarily been his game as much as I thought. And it's been the scoring. And I have kind of moved him into all right, who are the Mavs offensive creators that they have on this team? And I thought that I would put Klay Thompson in there in a way where he would be able to, create off of some post ups or create off of Mavs doing some off ball things and things like that. And they've created some shots for him there. But Naji Marshall is definitely more of a shot creator than Klay Thompson has been so far this season. And that has been a little bit of a surprise there with the two of them.
As we look ahead to the rest of the season, and there's a lot of season left, even though we're already almost a quarter of the way in. A couple of the biggest improvement areas. I'll start with one because you just mentioned Klay Thompson. He just needs to start making more shots. I don't think it's a complicated one. I don't think we need to dwell on it, but he's somebody who has not made as consistent of an impact, and quite frankly, has just not made as many shots as we expected. I think that's one obvious area. I do think it's going to come around. He's been a player historically throughout his career that oftentimes does take a little while, is kind of a slow starter, and then he's going to turn it on later in the season. Do you have any others?
Klay's also coming into a brand new environment, a brand new play style where it's more isolation heavy than it is free flowing. The Warriors offense, we point to, well, all the offenses are the same. Well, no, they're not. Look at Dallas's and look at the Warriors. They're completely different. And so since we put those teams on opposite ends there, then I think it'll take a little bit for Klay to get used to it. And he's played without Luka here for a little bit, and he has struggled without him. The OKC game, he was 1 for 11. The Denver game, he was 0 for 8 from the field. And so he's been so tied to Luka so far that playing without him is maybe a little unfair so far. It's like adjusting to even another different style of play at that point. Yeah.
Do you have any others? Luka was the other obvious. I have one more, but Luka, I want to mention Luka here. You kind of covered him in the last segment. Any other ones for you?
Yeah, an area of improvement. And I think we at least saw it against Atlanta, but they're really not getting much out of their like ninth spot on the rotation. The Dinwiddie, Hardy, Exum's been out obviously, but like that guard off the bench, they just haven't been getting a lot out of, and that's an area where either through buyout or trade or Dinwiddie playing like he did against Atlanta, and then even Miami a little bit if he made some shots. But that if that spot in the roster is improved and is better, this team is in a way better spot than they are right now.
Even if it's a rotating cast of characters with all these guards they have, you'd like for them to be consistent for a week at a time, not just a game or a quarter at a time.
Yeah.
I think the other big one for me, the other area of improvement is just consistency with the starting lineup. It was a surprise to me that Lively didn't start the year. On the season, he's a plus 85. Daniel Gafford is minus 16. Now, there are some reasons for that. Lively missed the team's 4-game losing streak, but also he was a big reason why they lost 4 straight games. Lively also obviously got to play against second units early on because he was coming off the bench. I do think those numbers will normalize to some extent, but there being such a big difference between how the team does when Lively's on the court as opposed to Daniel Gafford, it makes it very clear to me that Lively should remain the starter, that Gafford is better suited when he's going up against second units, and it should stay that way. And I think just some consistency once everybody kind of slowly returns to health. Obviously, it's never going to stay that way forever. But to me, Derek Lively is the locked-on starter, and I just think that him remaining the starter over time is an area that will help the team improve.
Did you say locked-on starter on purpose?
I did not. I
think the Gafford is the DLLS backup.
I'm just staring at your hat, and it's like slowly like seeping into my brain like a Stockholm syndrome. Except I never disliked y'all.
I was
not Stockholm.
I was that implies that I'm holding you against your will in some way.
An episode every day. Oh my gosh.
I guess
I feel the same way with our show.
With Lively and Gafford though, all through the summer, and I think we even did a show on Locked On Mavs where we had a bunch of us together and we're doing predictions, and we kept people kept saying, well, Lively's obviously going to start. And I just kept keeping the door open because everything Kid was saying, I was like, I don't know that he's going to start Lively. The way that he's talking has not been super firm on it. And if Kid is not firm on something, then it's open for anything. And so I was not super surprised by Gafford starting, but it was definitely a move that nobody really expected.
Okay. So last question, last segment. Where do you see the Mavericks in 25 games? And I'll do a little table setting to get you up to speed on this one. Depending when you listen to this video, 25 games from now will be after a game in late January against either Oklahoma City or Boston. They've got those two teams, quite possibly the best two teams in the entire NBA, back to back. So I do think that about 25 games from now, we're going to have a great sample size of how this team has, how things have gone, but also great tests of just exactly how things have gone. Currently, the Mavericks are 1 game out of the top 4 in the Western Conference. They're down, they're down in this mix of teams that all have more or less the same records. They're only 1 game out of the top 4. Those teams in the top 4 are playing at about a 60-win pace, a 60% win pace, which means over the next 25 games, they're very likely to go 15 and 10-ish. For Dallas to actually leap ahead of them, I think we're looking at 17 and 8. 18 and 7, somewhere in there. What seems likeliest to you? And also, have to throw this out here, late January is about when the trade deadline heats up. Nico Harrison has made a move at every single trade deadline. So where is the team going to be standing? And how much do you think that trade buzz may or may not seep into the team, which is probably going to be predicated based off their record, based off how these 25 games go?
Yeah, if you're a person that loves trades, Isaac and I just did a trade primer trade targets episode the other day. So go and listen to that one on Locked On Mavs. The stretch of games that they have, there's a bunch. They have 9 of those 25 games against Portland, Utah, the New Orleans, who's in a terrible spot, Toronto, the Wizards. They've got a bunch of games like that, and so I think this is the padding wins section of the stretch of the schedule. And then you've got a ton of games against, you got a good amount of games against good or average teams. And some of these clutch games just have to go the Mavs way. You would think at some point they have 7 clutch losses, which is tied for the lead in the NBA. They have, 4 losses of 1, 2, and 3 points, which is just, crazy. It's a bounce of the ball here or there. And so you think some of those would go the other way. But if we know anything about this Mavs team, Tim Cato, they won't really make their run until February and March. So like, maybe it'll be a slog just like it is right now, and then they'll make that run in February and March, and then all of a sudden we'll be like, oh, this is the best team, in the West, or second best team in the West, or whatever. But
Some say history repeats itself. Some say it doesn't, but it only rhymes, or it can rhyme. I don't know. I think that the rhyming nature of the season, I think they might have already got past it. And I know this is being really, this is a very optimistic outlook on this team, but this team is also top 10 in the league in offense and defensive rating. They have been a good team despite being, like an EKG meter thus far this season, or at least the feelings associated with them. They have been very up and down, even as recently as the Miami and Atlanta back-to-backs. But I kind of think this team is going to start to put it together. Maybe it's not, until mid-December. Maybe it's not until, January starts. But I do think this team is going to consistently start playing well above a 500 pace, maybe above a 600 pace, or 60% of the wins. I think that's possible over the next 25 games, especially because, as you laid out, there is some easier pickings. And despite a huge outlier against Utah, for the most part, Dallas has been very good in these situations. I think that's going to continue. And knowing the Mavericks, I will provide a mea culpa here in 25 games when I'm dead wrong. But I kind of think good times are ahead for them.
Well, if they get healthy, right? Because they've missed Luka. We talked about them missing Lively. PJ Washington, his injury was huge too. They're 9-4 with PJ Washington before the Knicks game, and they're 1-4 without him. I mean, that means something to me.
Yeah, no, health always dominates this, and I think this is a team that, unlike the very, very best, like Boston or Hartenstein coming back right as Chet Holmgren gets injured, Dallas does have a couple players that are very hard to replace on this roster. That's going to dominate a lot of this. But let's say they can at least get to early January once everybody comes back and get Exum back. And then it's time for, probably, knowing this team, knowing their players, that then maybe it's time for another injury. But if they can survive till there, I have pretty good feelings about them the rest of the season. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I appreciate you hopping on for this, Nick. Definitely go subscribe to Locked On Mavs. They are friends of the program, friends of our show as well. You're going to see a lot more collabs between the two of us over really the entire season. I'll be popping on over there. You guys will be popping on over here, and leave a comment leave a comment down in the comments. It seems like an apt place to leave a comment, but yeah,
leave a comment anywhere. Leave a comment like spray paint on a bathroom door. I don't care. Like comment somewhere. That's
illegal, and we do not condone that activity.
What if the bathroom door is your own door? What if it's your own bathroom door? Somebody listens to this on the toilet.
If you rent, that could be like a lease violation.
They're just gonna paint. They're just gonna paint over it and any bugs that are on the door anyway. So
that's probably true, but I don't really know how all that works. We don't claim to be experts in that way. But yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you think.
I'm not a landlord.
Next 25 games, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.
We all silly like the mayor.